Some days you wake up and you're just Maya Flores, wiping sticky floors on the graveyard shift. And the next you realize you just planted a full-on life-saving kiss on the man who could buy your whole neighborhood and then some, and suddenly the world decides to burn your life down just for touching him. This isn't a fairy tale, trust me. This is just how Chicago works, I guess, or maybe just how privilege works. It was a Tuesday, freezing cold outside, but even colder inside the Putnam Tower, Argonne Global's headquarters. I was pushing my mop bucket, Gladys, down the 40th floor hall, smelling that weird mix of high-end cologne and stale ambition. I'm a cleaner, right? I'm invisible. That's my superpower. Be quiet, be quick, pay rent. I was just focused on getting back home to my daughter, Leah, who left a note on the fridge saying, "Mommy, you're my Batman." Then I heard it, a crash, a frantic shout from the boardroom. "Call security, he's gone blue." I swear, in that moment, nobody moved. The polished door of the Olympus room was flung open, and I saw them, 6 men in suits that cost more than my car, standing frozen like expensive statues, staring at Mr. Alexander Thorne, the CEO, the man who built this glass kingdom, now just a crumpled heap on the marble floor. His lips were already this terrifying shade of bluish gray. And me? I dropped Gladys. CPR training, Southside Community Center, required for that free grocery voucher, remember? The instructor's voice just screamed in my head. You are their lungs. I charged past that wall of frozen ego and $300 cologne, pushing through a muttered, "Who the hell is she?" I dropped to my knees, checked his neck, nothing. Tilt the head, pinch the nose, and just breathe. Yeah, I put my mouth on the great Alexander Thorne. Twice. And then I started compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suddenly, a sharp, white-hot pain seared across my shoulder. Someone hit me with something hard, a cane, a heavy umbrella. I don't know. A voice hissed, "Get your filthy hands off of him, janitor." That was Mr. Edmund Vance, the chief legal officer, the one everyone called the Silver Shark. I groaned, kept counting, kept pumping, tears blurring my vision from the pain and the sheer raw panic. I gave 2 more breaths, pushed one last time, and then, Alexander coughed, choked, sucked air like he'd been pulled from the bottom of Lake Michigan. He was alive. I sat back, trembling, my back already blooming into a bruise. The suits swarmed him, fussing over Mr. Thorne, ignoring the black woman on the floor who just brought life back into the room. Edmund Vance, the shark, just glared at me, his face twisted in disgust. "What's your name?" he demanded, already tasting blood. "Maya Flores," I whispered, gathering my mop and bucket. "You put your mouth on Mr. Thorne," he spat, as if I'd spat on him. "You are to leave immediately. We will review the footage for inappropriate conduct." Inappropriate conduct. Saving a life, apparently, was inappropriate. I rode the crowded bus home, staring out at the blurred lights of Chicago, feeling the injustice like a physical weight. I'd gone from invisible to public enemy #1 in a single day, just because my hands were too black, too poor, too wrong to touch a white billionaire. I didn't know it then, but my life, the quiet little life I desperately held together for Leah, was officially over. The next morning, the guard blocked my way at the revolving door. "Orders from HR, Miss Flores. You've been terminated." Just like that. The email arrived minutes later. No severance, no thanks, just that ugly phrase, inappropriate conduct. Then the whispers started, turning into screams online. Someone leaked the grainy still image from the camera. Me, hunched over Alexander. The blogs went wild. Gold digger maid assaults her boss. Janitor gets fired for trying to seduce her boss. The slander was suffocating. I couldn't get work. Leah's school called about overdue fees. I hadn't eaten properly in days. I was already living month to month, juggling bills for our tiny apartment in Oakwood Flats, and the shame just locked up my chest. I collapsed. Honestly, just gave up. Lying on that thin mattress, my body failed from exhaustion, fever, and starvation. Meanwhile, high up in his immaculate penthouse, Alexander Thorne was doing what billionaires do, getting back to work. But he was haunted. He kept having these vivid, choking nightmares, saved only by a firm, trembling voice saying, "Come on, breathe." When he asked his executives who saved him, they were vague. "It was handled, sir. Just a cleaner. We took appropriate action." That made his skin crawl. Nobody kept information from Alexander Thorne, especially not about his own near-death experience. He finally watched the footage, all of it. He saw me, Maya Flores, drop my mop and charge in. He saw my face clenched in desperation. He felt the compressions, the breaths, and then he saw Edmund Vance strike me, fire me, discard me like trash. Rage, cold and pure, unlike anything his financial empire had ever stirred, finally cracked through his shell. He called his head of security, his voice dangerously low. "Find Maya Flores, now." He found me barely conscious, gaunt, feverish, dehydrated. My daughter, Leah, barely 7, was clutching her teddy bear and whimpering that "Mommy won't wake up." He saw the dilapidated apartment, the cold air, the stark poverty his company had pushed me into. He stood there, the great Alexander Thorne, in my dingy living room, holding my burning hand. "You saved my life," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Now let me save yours." He didn't send a driver. He drove us himself to the best private hospital in the city. When I finally woke up, he was there. Not my hero, not my boss, just a tired man sitting beside my bed, looking utterly ashamed. "He saw it all, Maya," he admitted, his head bowed. "I let them lie in my name, and I let them destroy you. I am so sorry." I didn't want his apology. "Then help me," I rasped. "Not just with doctors and money. Help me be seen. Help my daughter grow up in a world where doing the right thing doesn't mean losing everything." He didn't hesitate. "I will." He kept his promise. First, he issued a notarized statement clearing my name and permanently burying the inappropriate conduct lie. Then he moved Leah and my mother Elena into a beautiful, furnished apartment on the north side. Finally, he gave me the keys to an empty, sunlit floor in a new annex building. "I want you to be the director of the new Employee Equity and Wellness Program. I want you to build a system that ensures no one is ever invisible again." It was terrifying. Me? A director? But the fear of being silent was greater than the fear of being seen. I accepted. "I'm not working for you," I told him. "I'm working for the people you forgot." But justice is messy, and privilege doesn't go down without a fight. I hadn't even finished designing the floor plan when the first blow landed. Edmund Vance's old digital ghost, it seemed, was still active. My payroll analyst, a young woman named Carmen, came to me late one night, white as a sheet, holding a flash drive. "Miss Flores," she whispered, "someone is using your new program as a shell. They're running fraudulent invoices, ghost vendors, using fancy old credentials. It's over $1.4 million in embezzled funds." The shock hit me like a physical punch. They were weaponizing my fight for dignity to steal. They were trying to taint my beautiful, fragile beginning. But this time, I was ready. I didn't go to Alexander. I brought Carmen and the evidence directly to an all-staff meeting in the main auditorium. I stood on that stage, looking out at the faces, the janitors, the security guards, the middle managers, and I spoke my truth, raw and unedited.
"For weeks," I announced, pointing at the numbers glowing on the screen behind me, "an internal network has been stealing from this company, using the system of a man we all thought was gone. Over $1.4 million stolen from you, hidden under the cover of wellness." The room erupted. Then a smug VP, the one who'd always looked down his nose at me, snapped, "You expect us to believe you figured all this out? You were cleaning bathrooms a month ago." I looked him straight in the eye, and the power in my voice was not mine alone. It was the power of every invisible employee in that room. "I didn't figure it out alone," I shot back, my voice cutting through the noise. "I had help from someone in payroll, someone who was always told to keep her head down. And maybe you don't believe me, but I stand here today because someone tried to frighten me into silence. They came into my house, taped a threat to my fridge." The room went dead silent. That was the line. That was the truth that mattered. A man in a navy suit sitting quietly by the back exit suddenly slipped away. Carmen recognized him instantly, a shell vendor signatory. "Security!" Alexander roared from the side of the stage. The chase was short. The confession was immediate. They were working for Vance. My fight wasn't over. The press went wild, calling me hero or disruptor. My daughter's father, James, an absolute ghost who hadn't paid child support in years, crawled out of the woodwork trying to sell lies about my past to the tabloids. But I didn't respond with statements. I responded with action. I launched the Leah Fund, a nonprofit branch of Archon Global dedicated to single-parent support, turning their gossip into community gold. And then the pinnacle. I was invited to testify before the Congressional Committee on Corporate Ethics. I sat there, on a pedestal of cold marble, surrounded by portraits of dead white men, and they asked me if I was seeking fame. I didn't want a platform, I said, looking right into the lens of the main camera. I wanted a paycheck, but I earned a platform when the system tried to punish me for saving a man's life. And I earned it again when they tried to bury the truth under paperwork. I'm not a celebrity, I finished, feeling a powerful, quiet dignity settle over me. I'm evidence. The silver shark, Vance, ended up facing the FBI, and me? I got a plaque on my desk. Maya Flores, Director of Employee Equity and Well-Being, the heart of Archon Global. I still walk by the Olympus room sometimes, and I still talk to Gladys, my old mop bucket. But now when I walk through the doors, every eye follows me not with suspicion, but with respect. Alexander and I stood on the rooftop recently, watching the city below. "Justice isn't always a gavel," I told him, sipping my coffee. He grinned. "Well, Maya, you certainly got it." Not yet. There are 1,000 stories still waiting to be changed. So, that's my story. The kiss that changed everything. My core conflict wasn't Alexander Thorne, it was the invisible wall that separates the people who clean the mess from the people who make it. I want to know what you think. Was Edmund Vance's reaction a pure racism, or was it just about protecting his power structure? And if you were me, facing those online attacks and threats to your family, would you have chosen to fight publicly, or would you have just taken the money and stayed quiet? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you believe that courage isn't found in a suit, but in the hands that keep the world running.